Hello and welcome to Her Moment in History, the podcast about women in history.
And literature, and the present day, and in general.
Yep. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Grace, and welcome to the first episode.
Yep.
So, this episode, we were just kind of going to do a general, both of us have picked a woman, we don't know who the other person has, and then just kind of tell the other about this person. So, we'll see how it goes. Right. Disclaimer before we begin. This is the first episode, so we're not 100% sure about the technology, I think, and the way this is going to work.
We're trying.
Yeah, and also disclaimer that the research is mine's mainly off Wikipedia and bio.com.
Yeah, same.
So, but yeah.
If you have edits for us, feel free to email.
Oh yeah, call us out massively.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you gonna go first?
No, you are.
I'm gonna go first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the person I have for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I want to give you a clue. They were born in 1880.
Ooh.
Okay. And they're known for campaign work and for being the first deaf-blind person to get a degree.
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay, so this episode is Helen Keller.
Oh.
Have I mentioned her before?
Yeah, I'm sure she's on one of my research things. I'll come back to it.
Okay, fair enough, right. So, Helen Keller was born June 27th, 1880 in Alabama.
Ooh.
Little southern belle. She lived on a homestead called Ivy Green because that's what they do there.
Very American.
Yeah, that her grandfather built.
Ooh.
Very American. She was one of 5 children, right? And to add to the Southern Americanness, her dad was the captain of the Confederate Army.
Oh.
And her mother was the daughter of Charles W. Adams, a Confederate general.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, Charles W. Adams had a wiki link attached to it, so I assume he's pretty famous in the time in history, but I don't know who he was. When she was 19 months old, she contracted an illness. The illness wasn't named. I don't think they actually knew what it was because they didn't know then, but now they look back and they probably think it was scarlet fever or meningitis, which usually is a cause of deafness. And because of it, she was left deaf and blind. Later in her autobiography, she said that she was left in a sea of dense fog.
Dramatic.
Very, yeah. By that point, she could kind of already communicate with their cook's 6-year-old daughter. By gestures and things like that. She didn't actually have a language because she was 19 months old. And by the time she was 7, she had 60 home signs. So gestures that she'd.
Oh, so sign language, but she made it. Oh.
Yeah, her family knew what she was talking about.
Okay.
But it wasn't an actual sign language.
Mm-hmm.
And she could tell people apart by their footsteps.
Oh, I can sometimes do that if I know the people very well.
Really? Can you tell mine apart?
I can tell them apart. Yeah, I think.
I'm awful at it. I genuinely don't know. Okay. Now I'm worried. Okay. In 1886, so she was 6 years old, her parents took her to see Alexander Graham Bell because they'd been referred to him by many people. So they spoke to somebody who spoke to somebody who eventually referred to Alexander Graham Bell. And he had experience with another deafblind woman called Laura Bridgman. So Bell told them to then get in touch with the Perkins Institute for the Deaf, where Laura had been educated, where she was to be tutored by Anne Sullivan, who's...
Sounds familiar.
Yes, good, I'm glad. Anne Sullivan herself was also visually impaired. And they became friends for the next 49 years. That was really, really cute. So Sullivan came to the Keller house on March 5th, so soon, but in 1887, to which Helen wrote was her soul's birthday. And Sullivan taught her how to communicate with signs by spelling words, finger spelling into her hand, and hoping that the association with what she was finger spelling
Okay.
would then be linked to like what she was putting into her hands.
Ah, okay.
Right. So she first did it with a doll that she'd bought Helen.
Mm-hmm.
So she like gave her the doll and then like spelled DOLL into her hand and hoped that it would happen. And I think it was to say, yeah, Helen originally struggled to kind of pick up the words as it is expected. Yeah. And at one point, Anne was like gave her a mug and tried to fingerspell mug into her hands, and Helen broke it because she was really, really angry. So, but then the big, cinematic scene came when they were using like one of those old water pumps, and Anne put Keller's hands into the water, fingerspelled water into her hands, and then Helen fingerspelled it back. It was like this big moment because she'd got the link between water and the word water. And then Keller would move around and she'd have different things and ask what their names were. And then that day she learnt 30 words.
Oh.
Yeah. And then she used them to learn how to read Braille.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that's like how language came about for her. So she went to a few different schools.
Oh, Braille, do you know how it came about?
No.
I think Napoleon demanded it to be made because he wanted a way to like lie in his bed with the lights off. Something like that, I'm sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so he demanded it, and like that was the start of Braille, and then it sort of evolved into Braille for the use of blind.
That's so extra.
I know. It's Napoleon.
Yeah, valid point to be fair. Oh, God. But to be fair, thankful that he did do it. So, is it named after the guy who invented it as well? So is that surname Braille?
No idea.
Okay, fair enough. So she went to a few different schools. First was the Perkins Institute for the Deaf, which was the one that Belle said to go to. That's still around now. Then she went to the Wright Humerson School for the Deaf. I don't think that one's around anymore, because when I looked it up, the only piece of information about it was that Helen Keller had attended. That was it. There's literally nothing else. Then she went to the Horace Mann School for the Deaf, which is also still around. And then she went to the Cambridge School for Young Ladies.
Ooh.
I know. And then Harvard in 1990 when she was 20. So
1990.
1890.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say she'd be 110.
Yeah, which also, if my numbers are correct, does not make her 20. So I think I typed that up wrong. So I think that was probably 1910.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 1900.
1900.
It's 20. Because 18.
So I've got that wrong somehow. Fair enough, yeah. Yeah. There she met Mark Twain.
Oh.
That Mark Twain. Who knew somebody who ended up paying for her education.
Oh, wow.
So, networking.
It works.
She graduated from there with a bachelor's degree, the first deaf-blind person to do so.
Mm-hmm.
She then went to speech therapy to learn how to speak, which I don't understand how they would approach that. And then she learnt how to read lips, so she'd like touch the person's face whilst they were speaking, and then would like read their lips with her hands, which is also kind of you couldn't imagine someone communicating that way.
I mean, what if you're eating?
Just feeling that they're eating. What I'm getting is mumbling. No, they're just eating. She also then started giving lectures. So she gave one in 1916 when she was 36. That works out. Which was about hope and happiness, and was said to be truly inspiring. She wrote about the joy that life gave her.
Aww.
I know. And being thankful for the facilities and abilities that she had. She also said that people should just help one another and that work would be rewarding.
Oh,
I know. I feel I've had a few lectures like that myself, but not quite to that level. So,
no.
Was also a massive political activist. So usually she's known for the fact that she was deafblind and that she did like a lot of things, but also massively known for being such a massive activist, despite the fact that she was deafblind. So she was advocating for, okay, here's the list, people with disabilities, suffragettes, pacifism, radical socialism, birth control, and was an opponent to Woodrow Wilson.
Ooh.
A lot of things on the list, yes. She also took several trips to Japan to work with Japanese people, became very popular there. She gave loads of speeches about women's rights to vote, spoke openly about her negative opinion on war. So,
I like her.
Respect, I know. She was also friends with Alexander Graham Bell, Mark Twain, and your favourite, Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
But because not every person in history is, fully clean, she was also into eugenics.
Oh.
Yeah, which is not great. So is Alexander Graham Bell, which is why I'm not a massive fan of him. But she said that if a child had a mental impairment or physical deformities, that their lives would not be worthwhile.
What?
Yep, and that they would likely become criminals.
And what was she the exception?
That's what I don't understand. It's like,
I'm guessing she doesn't see it as a mental disability then.
Yeah.
She's a physical.
But
it's still
a disability, and she's not a criminal.
I know.
Unless that was her way of telling people she's a criminal.
Conspiracy.
So yeah, that wasn't nice to learn. But anyway, she wrote a total of 12 books.
Oh.
And published loads of articles, and she visited 35 countries.
Impressive.
I know. I haven't even visited them. I've visited none. Well, I've visited a few, but nowhere near that many. In 1964, so she would have been 84. She received the presidential. No, I've brought it wrong. Medal of Freedom by Lyndon B. Johnson, and was elected to the National Women's Hall of Fame. She died in her sleep on June 1st. In 1968, so she was just a few weeks shy of her 88th birthday. She was cremated, and her ashes were put next to Anne Sullivan, so her teacher, and Polly Thompson, who was another. So when Anne got really ill at some point, so they had to hire somebody else to come and help as well, and that was Polly Thompson, and they were all the three of them were really friends. They had a house together. Their ashes were all put together in Washington DC. So the Miracle Worker, which might be was first it was a play, and then it was made into a film, and it's whenever usually you mention Helen Keller, people will say, oh, that film in black and white, and it's called The Miracle Worker, but it's only about her as a child, so it's nothing about her later life. That won an Oscar in 1962 and has been remade twice, in 1979 and the year 2000. They then made another film for TV that was called The Miracle Continues, which showed her later life as well. But none of these films actually credited her political activism, except from the 2000 version made by Disney, which literally said it in the credits.
It's a star. It's
a star, yeah. There's a hospital in Sheffield declared to her, Sheffield, Alabama. I had to double check that. And then there are many streets named after her as well. So there's one in Switzerland, one in the US, one in Spain, one in Israel, one in Portugal, one in France. And there's also in her hometown on June 27th, which, if I remember correctly, is her birthday. Oh, which I'm going to find now. Yep, which is her birthday. They have Helen Keller Day.
Aww.
And that's Helen Keller.
Ooh.
Yeah, so...
Okay. She does actually relate to my person.
Ooh.
In a very, very tiny way, but still.
Have I got to guess the way? No, I'm not going to guess. That would be embarrassing.
It would, if you guessed, I'd be...
Did they live around the same place at some point?
I don't... they were just in... They just met. at their house.
Okay, got him.
So she was born as Gladys Lewis Smith, but her stage name was Mary Pickford, and she was an American film actress. No, actually, Canadian-born American film actress and producer.
Okay, like in Hollywood.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was born in Toronto, Canada. She was her father was an alcoholic and died when she was 6. Ooh. So her mother was obviously widowed, and so she was born in 1892. I missed that bit.
Okay. Born in 1892 in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. And then in 1899, her mother started having boarders in the house.
Boarders? Oh, like people come and stay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that like boarders?
I think so.
And one of who was someone called Mr. Murphy, who got Mary and her sister, Lottie, when they were still children at this age, to play in theatres as small roles.
Fair enough. I thought that was going down a very dark route.
Okay.
No. I was like, oh no.
I really hope not. And then this was 1899, so like a year later, in the 1900s, that decade, the whole family were in it.
Oh wow.
So there's a mother and a brother as well, and they were touring the US, performing plays and stuff. In 1906, she was considering, she was trying to find a role on Broadway.
Okay.
And so she said if she doesn't find one by 1907, she'd give up.
That's a bit dramatic.
She was 14 at this time, but...
I mean, that's usually 14-year-old.
I know.
Dramatic, isn't it, really?
Yeah, but she did find...
Oh, cool.
Oh, right. Her and her brother and her sister supported the singer Chauncey Olcott on Broadway.
Okay, fair enough.
And then she finally got her supporting role in 1907 in a Broadway play called The Warrens of Virginia.
The what?
The Warrens of Virginia. And then her role in film came in 1909, where she was screen tested for a W.D. Griffith film, the guy who did Birth of a Nation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was fine.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine he was the nicest person to work for.
No.
But
they were friends, so...
Oh, okay.
And he took a liking to her. And so, the standard wage would be $5 a day. But she got $10 a day.
Oh, that's quite a liking, isn't it?
It's 100% wage increase. Doubled.
Yeah.
Because the way it worked in the early 1910s was actors weren't listed or credited for films.
Well, how did people know who were in them?
That's the thing. So it's they just noticed her face a lot because she was in so many. She did one a week or something like that.
Okay.
In 1909, she did 51 films.
So what if you wanted to watch something with her and you had to sketch out her face and then go, this person, please?
She the way they advertised films with her in it were they'd have sandwich boards that said the girl with the golden curls or Blondie locks or the Biograph Girl, which is the company that produced it. And her plan was if she gets seen a lot, then people will know who she is.
That makes sense, but I feel like it would have just been so much easier if they just used her name.
I know. But they didn't do it with anyone. Charlie Chaplin's very early films.
Okay, fair enough.
It was just the standard till they decided.
Until someone realised that...
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. No, fair enough.
Yeah. And then the way it worked then was the actors would play leading roles and side roles and little bit parts throughout in all the same films. So she was doing that. She continued to work in films and theatres through like the 1910s and 20s. She was considered to be the most famous woman in the world at that point.
Blimey. When was this? In the 20s and 30s?
10s
and 20s.
Yeah. Because her films, obviously they're silent, so they're easier to
like
make it international and stuff. The only person who came close to her amount of fame was Charlie Chaplin at the time.
So he didn't even come close.
Well, like they were about on the same level, I think.
Oh my gosh.
She was really big.
Yeah.
But it's just quite sad that she's not as well known.
Yeah. Well, how did like?
I'm guessing it's because Charlie Chaplin has the image of the tramp.
Yes, I suppose if like because her then stage name wasn't like as marketable, I assume.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
But she is credited as having defined the genuine archetype in cinema.
Okay.
Which...
Can you explain a bit about what that is? Yeah.
It's... The definition is a stock character, which is generally a girl or young woman who is endearingly innocent and wholesome. And it's quite problematic, really.
Oh.
They imply a lack of sophistication and cunning, and is like naive. They're often put in emotional, mental danger, virginal, and
yeah,
it's like they're due to lack of independence because the father or the husband or whatever. But that was the time.
It's quite, I don't know, sad that like if your like thing is, oh, I created this archetype of like acting, and people go, yeah, but isn't that like an example of, I don't know, a bit of a negative stereotype?
Yeah, it's like the girl next door kind of thing.
Yeah. The kind of like the early kind of femme fatale.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
She had very curly hair as well, which was part of. She was like, also her names were like America's Sweetheart and the Girl with the Curls.
Okay.
And there's some really great pictures of her with her hair, and there's one that I love with a kitten on her shoulder, and she has like sausage curls.
Oh yeah.
In her hair as well, and it's really, there's loads of really great pictures of her. But then, shock horror, she cut it off, and it made front page news in 1928.
How short are we talking? Are we talking like
Bob?
Oh, so it's not even like,
I know,
like shaving it off. It's just,
yeah, it's a bob, but people were like, because they just associate the character with.
Oh god,
I
I assume
don't
she
know.
still had curly hair, even with a bob.
Yeah, but
it
was for a role, which I will get to later.
Oh, okay. I thought she
Um,
just like breakdown level, just chopped her hair off.
Well, it was after her mother's death, so maybe.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, there was a silent film journalist who described her as the best known woman who has ever lived. The woman who is known to more people and loved by more people than any other woman that has been in all history. That was at the time, though.
Yeah, but I mean,
because the whole
it's a big
idea
claim
of,
to say in all of history.
But like at the time, the idea of celebrity wasn't as big of a thing,
True.
especially film related as well.
Yeah, because I mean, you know more about film than I do. Is this like early? This is when films were really kicking off.
And then in 1919, she, along with D.W. Griffith, Charlie Chaplin, and Douglas Fairbanks, created United Artists, the production company, and through that, she could produce and distribute her own films, which obviously gave her a lot of freedom, which other companies wouldn't, because the way that it typically worked in Hollywood at the time was the studio would produce the film, and then they'd also own the cinema that they'd show it at.
Oh.
So it's like a whole chain. They had the monopoly, essentially.
So, but
which became illegal eventually.
yeah, how do you kind of even like for their own sense of like you want to make the most money from having these films, but if you're the only place where they show those films, people who don't live in the immediate area aren't going to know about it, so you massively cut off your audience.
They make it world.
Yeah, I suppose it's like how Broadway now works, isn't it, really?
Yeah, probably. And so they didn't do that. They they just did the distribution, and then they'd let independent film producers access its screens and stuff, which was good because the way they did it, they sort of interfered with the film of it. So like how do I explain it? So like they'd do like a really bad picture, but then put it alongside as in pictures and film. And then they'd do it alongside a good one with a big star in it or something. And then they'd get the bad one shown as well. So it's just, they'd just sell them together kind of thing.
Is that to try and, like, promote the bad one as well? Or was it to, like, kind of make so that they juxtapose one another? So that the good one seems better?
I don't know. Maybe.
Or was it just literally, like, 2 for 1?
Probably just 2 for 1.
Yeah, fair enough.
They never do that anymore. It's quite sad.
You sometimes have like shorts in front of films.
That doesn't happen very often though anymore.
No, I can only think of like Disney. Doing it.
I did when I went to see Strangers on a Train. They showed a short in front of it.
Oh, right.
And it was like sort of related to it, same kind of vibe. But that's the only time that I've seen like a proper short. And even that wasn't like mainstream cinema because it's an old film.
I was going to say, I've never heard of it before, so...
Strangers on a Train?
I don't think so.
Hitchcock?
Oh, yeah. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, though.
Yeah, where they kill the other person for the other person. So they meet on a train, and then they're like, oh, right, so you want to kill this person, I want to kill this person, we'll both kill the other person.
Oh, so it's untraceable.
Yes.
Nice.
Spoilers, sorry.
Yeah, no, don't need to watch it now.
So the films that was made by the United Artists were like Little Lord Fauntleroy, Pollyanna, Rosita. All these were very commercially successful. And one called Sparrows, which sort of took a German expressionist style, which I've seen, I liked it. But she plays a child in it.
How old is she at this point?
But she's 36 at this point. No, 34.
Problematic.
I know. Which, weird, but okay. Then 1920, she and Douglas Fairbanks were having like a secret relationship because she was married at the time. I know.
Scandal.
And so then she abruptly divorced her first husband, who was an Irish silent film star, I think.
Okay.
And I think they had an abusive relationship. It didn't sound very good. And then, like, a few days after, she married Douglas Fairbanks.
Was he good to her?
I think so.
Good.
And, like, they were worried that they'd have a negative reaction when they first told the public about it, but they were actually, like, it was received very well because they both sort of got the romantic fantasy kind of thing, and then they were together and they were, like, sort of seen as the king and queen of Hollywood.
Yeah. It's like the it couple. Yeah.
Like the Brangelina of the 20s.
I mean, Brangelina ended, so...
Right. These ended too.
Oh, okay. Spoiler.
And yeah, because they went on a honeymoon in Europe, and they were crowds everywhere when they went, so they were met by everybody.
In Europe?
Yeah. So, pretty famous.
Yeah.
And then they had the famous estate, which was Pickford, so both of their names put together.
Gosh.
Which is where Helen Keller comes in, because she visited Pickford.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as well as like Einstein, Charlie Chaplin, H.G. Wells, Amelia Earhart, Fitzgerald.
Oh my gosh.
Arthur Conan Doyle.
Like,
a lot of famous people.
Visited, like, to go see them?
Yeah, they had big dinner parties.
Ooh, very fancy.
I know. Yeah, and they were seen as like Hollywood royalty, which I already said. But so then like foreign heads of states came to visit the White House. They'd also come and ask to go to Pickford too.
What?
I know, it's crazy.
Was it in the north or?
It was in LA, I think.
So they go to the White House,
Yeah.
which is
I think it's the other
East
side,
Coast.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
And then they travel to. Oh my
I
god!
know.
Well done to them.
Mm.
Fair enough. Yeah.
No. But then the arrival of sound was considered her undoing. So.
Why did she sound really bad?
Well, it's because I always find a problem with when sound come around because they just completely got rid of silent cinema.
Oh.
Because like I think it gets such underappreciated because like it's kind of like ballet in which it's a performance.
Yeah.
You don't need the words. There are words, and it's much more universal.
Yes. Yeah. I suppose when they put sound in, it meant that all of a sudden, like they're massive in Europe, if you know what I mean. I suppose then they'd be like, oh well, it's not in our language,
which is sad.
Yeah.
But she claimed when sound came about that adding sound to movies would be like putting lipstick on the Venus de Milo, which is famous statue. So yeah, she was against it.
Against it, yeah.
There was a lot of the silent film actors sort of panicked a bit when talkies came about.
Mm-hmm.
So
a talkies talking film.
Sound film.
Yeah.
So there was the Dodge Brothers Hour, which is a radio show, and a group of them, which included her, Fairbanks Chaplin, some other famous people, D.W. Griffith and stuff, and they spoke on the radio to prove that they could meet the challenge of talking movies. So that they can still make silent films against this.
So they went onto the radio to say that like we're still going to make silent films.
I think, but now I read it, I might have interpreted it wrong. Like maybe because it says it could meet the challenge of talking movies. So
I always just
don't know.
wanted to challenge talking movies with silent film.
I mean, Charlie Chaplin still made silent films up until 1936.
I mean, I can only think of one talking film he ever made.
Oh, he made quite a lot.
Did he?
Yeah. Well, not as many as the Tramp because they were quite far apart. But he did one called Limelight with Buster Keaton.
Oh yeah,
which is quite fun. So she did win an Oscar though for one of her performances in the talkies, which was a film called Coquette.
I have not seen it.
Me neither. And this is where she cut her hair for the role.
For the role. What year is that?
29.
29, okay. How are the Oscars going?
She won the second ever Oscar.
Whoa!
I know. And she was also part of the Academy. She was one of the original founding members, I think.
Blimey!
Yeah. She's also considered by Disney to play in Alice in Wonderland live version that they were planning in the 30s. Live action.
Did they ever make it?
No, because Paramount released its own version.
Oh.
So they just scrapped it. But then she retired from acting in 1933. Just quite young.
Yeah. How old? What do you? She was
1892.
92.
She's 39. But she had 23 years in cinema.
And in star role as well.
Her last film was released in 1934. She did continue to produce for there's one called Sleep My Love, and Love Happy, which is with the Marx Brothers. So, but they think that the public nature of the relationship of her and Fairbanks was what put it under so much strain that they broke up. In about 1936 they got divorced, and he died 3 years after.
Like, how much older than her was he?
I actually don't know.
Fair enough. I say that seems quite young. If they were like of similar ages.
Let me find out. He was born in 1883, so he's 11 years older.
Yeah, fair enough. That's... So how old was he when he died?
He was age 56.
Yeah, quite young then.
Yeah. She did also get, because she did a lot of work in World War One. I forgot about this.
That minor thing that happened,
Yeah,
the First World
just
War.
nothing.
Yeah.
She promoted Liberty bombs, which
Oh yeah.
as well as Charlie Chaplin, which I do. It's kind of weird because she's Canadian, he's English. They were trying to fund America's part in the war, but I mean,
yeah.
They're all on the same side, so it doesn't matter. But the army named 2 cannons after her, and
What an honour.
I know, and made her an honorary colonel.
I mean, that is, I assume, quite an honour.
Yeah, but I mean, they should let her fight.
Yeah.
If she wanted to.
Yeah. Was national service a thing then?
I don't know.
I mean, she was Canadian, so...
That is true. So she married her last husband in 1937, so a year after. Yeah.
She moved on pretty quick. Okay.
I mean, good for her.
Yeah.
They adopted 2 children.
Aww.
Yeah, and it was Buddy Rogers is the man she married.
Yeah.
I forgot that bit. But then it sort of takes a turn, because she became a recluse.
Oh.
And
For what reason, or just...
I don't know. She just says she remained still at Pickford,
Mm-hmm.
and only allowing visits from Lillian Gish and Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Oh.
and a few other people, which is quite sad.
Yeah.
She received an honorary Academy Award in 1976 for lifetime achievement, and she ceased to be a British subject when she became an American citizen.
British?
Yeah, because Canada, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
When she married Douglas Fairbanks, he's American, but she never acquired Canadian citizenship because it came about in 1947. But she wanted to die as a Canadian, so she requested to get dual citizenship, which she got.
I mean, it would have been weird if she hadn't have been allowed it, considering that she was born and raised there.
Yeah. She also became an alcoholic too, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah. And her dad and I think her brother and sister also died alcohol related.
Oh my gosh. Is that all of the kids?
Yeah.
And then the dad?
Yeah. I'm not sure if the mother did as well. But they all, because I think it was all around the same time as talkies were becoming a thing. So she got quite depressed at that time.
Yeah.
And...
But that was that round Prohibition as well?
Yeah, probably. And then she died on May 29, 1979, of complications from a cerebral hemorrhage she'd suffered the week before.
Oh. That's quite a sad,
It's a sad ending.
to be so high in the public eye and then... Yeah.
But she has a lot of things named after her.
Mm-hmm. Such as?
She's got a star on the Walk of Fame.
Oh, right. I think you meant, in the solar system. I was like, oh, okay.
I do.
You do?
Yeah. You know where you can like buy a star for someone? Someone bought me one. It's called the Great Goatsby.
Oh my gosh.
um,
Like, can you see it in the sky? Do you know where it is?
I don't think so. To be honest,
right.
I think it's kind of just like they say you buy a star, but you don't actually.
Do you think like loads of people have the same star?
Or they just say you have a star, but they don't give it a name
Do
or
anything.
like a place.
It'd be really funny if like something like that star did something that was really significant, and then it has to be in the papers as the Great Goatsby has recently done this.
Yes, I know. I hope.
Please be an asteroid.
She's in a lot. There's a lot of more stars in more walks of fame, and there's some theatres and stuff named after her. Also has a cocktail named after her.
Ooh.
Which
What goes in the cocktail?
it's a prohibition made with rum, fresh pineapple juice, grenadine, and maraschino liquor.
That sounds quite nice, actually. It looks nice as well on the picture.
Yes.
So if I was to go into a bar and order that, do you reckon it'd actually serve
I
it to me?
doubt it. But you never know.
I think I should test it.
We can test it. And then, yeah, that's Mary Pickford.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, is that to wrap it up?
I think so. And is there anything else you want to say?
No.
No? Just thank you for listening, I guess.
Yes, and if you want to contact us, we have an email, hermomentinhistory@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to contact us with any corrections or questions, anything.
Or just general.
Say hi.
Say hi, yeah.
And you can follow us on Instagram.
Yes.
too.
Which is also Her Moment in History.
Yep.
Yeah. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.